Hi friends, just a quick channel update before we get into the video. First off, thank you for all the support, it means the world to me. Secondly, I just got a new microphone so your ears will no longer bleed while listening to me speak. However, this video and the next two videos have already been recorded, so apologies in advance for the audio quality on my end, it will get better. And that being said, this was a really insightful conversation and I spoke for like 10% of it at most, so it's definitely worth sticking around. And with that, let's get into it. Hi everyone, my name is Adi and welcome back to the channel. As you're probably aware, the regional qualifier stage of Players Cup 2 just wrapped up recently and they have narrowed down the 256 player field to the top 4 players in each region who will compete in the grand finals of this tournament. And today I am excited to introduce 2 players who got top 16 in North America with the exact same team. Introducing Tommy DeRosa and Don Czech.
What is going on, everybody?
Howdy.
I'm doing well, thanks. And yourself?
I'm doing well. So, Tommy, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? I know that frequent viewers of the channel have seen you around.
Yes, we took the spiritual successor of Beedrill last time, Cinderace, and this time we took the spiritual successor of the spiritual successor, and we turned it into something new.
And Don, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I've been playing VGC for a little bit since 14. Didn't really do anything relevant until 17. I cut Florida Regionals with a Torkoal that has just kind of been a perennial and also Neolego was on that team. And we kind of, Tommy and I have a very similar play style that's also completely different with the same team.
We may or may not both be crackheads.
Yeah, and you guys both are definitely have a reputation for the type of team you used, and so I'm really excited to get into this team. So we had about 2 weeks leading up between the Crown Tundra releasing and we had to lock in a team for Players Cup 2. Can you tell me a little bit about what those 2 weeks were like and what your process of team building looks like?
Certainly, because for the 2 weeks leading up to Players Cup, I believe we had the Victory Road Tour the weekend before, so we had a little bit of testing. But I really had no clue what I wanted to do. I went into Victory Road with some speed swap Pheromosa stuff because I kind of identified that Ice Horse was really good, really fast. But then I kind of threw that out the window. Following that, I had a bad idea and found out that Unaware was a great ability, and I started messing around with Pyukamuku and nearly committed to that. Luckily, I didn't have to commit to that, but we took a gamble.
I forgot about that vow.
And then that whole week leading up to Players Cup, the 1 week before, I just had no clue what I wanted to do until Don was like, "Hey, this team's cool. Let's look at it." And I stole it from him at the last minute again.
Yeah, I didn't play the Victory Road Tour and kind of wasn't sure if I was going to play in Players Cup 2 until probably the weekend the tour was. I decided I did want to play. And I pretty much had nothing. I've actually got my Showdown builder here open. My very first version of the team was a lot more Trick Room heavy kind of team within like a weird Cinderace Butterfree mode to like clean up late game. It had like Torkoal and Ice Horse. And then I realized I liked Sun, at least partially Sun. So I tried Trick Room with Venusaur, and I felt like Venusaur was really bad. Obviously, it's not completely bad because people did well with it, but I did not. Then I realized that Charizard seemed kind of sweet because at the time everyone was using Metagross, and it seemed like it just really destroys Metagross even when it's max, which was a tough mon to KO. Charizard and Sun with Solar Power is pretty sweet. And then Neolego was there at that point as well. There's so many flying types, like especially like pre-Players Cup 2, every team had like 3 flyers. So and I just like Neolego a lot, and I liked the idea of Power Meteor Beam. Just if you get a KO with it, it's a free +2. And if you get a KO with Max Ooze, it's a free +2, which is just the snowball potential is awesome. And then that version also had an Unaware Quagsire, so I also hit on Unaware. I realized Quagsire is bad.
Yeah, I remember that conversation in our. trying to figure out what you're going on about. And yeah, like I was like, and I think I was the one who's like, why are you using Quagsire? You should be using Swampert. Swampert's way better.
The next one had Swampert, which still kind of do it right. And then I think Tommy actually said just use Landorus. And
yeah,
it
by
did
the
it.
time I kind of got to Don, like we had kind of identified that that rock types were going to be really strong, and that fire types that weren't able to be stopped, like Charizard when it's in the sun, were also going to be really strong. And like the only thing we were kind of missing was just a way to not lose to Regieleki. And Landorus just kind of does it. And like Landorus with the Sword Stance as well, it just kind of steamrolls a lot of things, including the entire rest of our team.
Yeah, I noticed that like you guys. I remember the night before lock-in, I had locked in my team a little earlier, but I know that I was helping out Gus with Sohybe. We were in one call, and then you guys were in the other call. I wasn't sure what you guys were doing, but you guys spent hours and hours trying to figure out all of this.
We didn't know what we were doing either.
We spent hours trying to fix the Trick Room matchup, where we decided our Trick Room matchup was to double Heat Wave and then hit Sing.
Yeah, that was a major flaw in the team, in my opinion. Like we realized the day before we had the matchup, and I think actually we put Torkoal back on the team that day. Like I don't remember what we had switched it out to, but we both kind of felt like Torkoal was doing nothing. But
I know we had a support Torkoal at one point that was just not doing anything.
It was bad. Yeah, we tried a lot of items on Torkoal. We had like Citrus Torkoal, Specs Torkoal. We had like I think we had Vest Torkoal at one point.
Like, I had a weird
they just didn't do anything.
I think, too. Yeah. And then I think it was Sohybe suggested Expert Belt Torkoal because Max Quake from Expert Belt Torkoal kills Stack Attacka, which ripped our team apart. And then I fought Zero Stack.
I did fight one the first round, and I didn't even Max Quake it. Like I didn't Max Torkoal. I ended up killing it with like a bunch of wildfire damage.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do have
wildfires
or 3 ground moves on your team, so you have a lot of ways to hit Stack Attacka, surprisingly.
Yeah, we were very scared of it.
Yeah, it was very much like for me personally the boogeyman Pokemon going into the tournament that I really didn't want to fight.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Like you guys said, you identified that rock types were going to be really good, and Nihiligo especially really overperformed in Players' Cup. A lot of players that did very well used it, and Stack Attack is a rock type that wasn't as utilized in Players' Cup, but I definitely think has a lot of potential and probably operates on a very different type of team than this one. But
for sure, yeah.
Given that you guys, have so many things that are weak to both steel and rock, steel or rock. In fact, all of your steel resists are weak to rock. I can see why that would be a
synergy.
But one thing that I do really like, I think the thing that you guys identified is that fire types are really good, and especially offensive fire types. They don't really exist in this format, other than the 2 that you used. There's, I guess, and Colossal, but everyone's just kind of using Incineroar as the fire type if they have a fire type on the team at all. And you use a fire type move to hit stuff like Kartana, to hit stuff like Glastrier, and just generally have pretty good neutral coverage into a lot of different things in Metagross, right? And so being able to abuse that offensively seems like it's really, really strong right now.
Yeah, we messed with Entei a lot too before, like in first drafts, like way before this team even was like conceptualized, and like everybody was kind of running Entei as a Metagross counter, but when your Metagross counter doesn't always burn the Metagross and just procs the weakness policy.
And Metagross is never not with Finny.
Yeah, and so it was just a bust. Like most of the I don't think physical damage is as effective right now in this format as special damage, as should be evident since there's only one physical attacker on the team.
Real quick, semi-aside, I apologize. This isn't the most recent pace of the team. The Whimsicott has ours was max special attack because my set was dumb.
Yeah, this paced Whims having 252 HP rather than 252 special attack is a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah. When we realized that it didn't kill Urshifu.
There was no attack on Whimsicott at first either.
Yeah, and you asked me, you're like,
yeah, that was a great conversation 20 minutes before we locked in the teams. Like, hey Don, why is there no special attack investment on Whimsicott? I don't know. There's no attacks. What do you mean there's no attacks?
That's true. And I noticed that, yeah, you opted for Dazzling Gleam on the Whimsicott as your fairy coverage move. I know people have been running like Moonblast on Clefairy instead of Sing. I know people have been running Dazzling Gleam on Nihilego instead of running Power Gem. And so I like that you guys managed to kind of like, I don't want to call Sing consistent, but you managed to keep the consistency of your team. And instead of having to put a less strong move on a different Pokemon that doesn't really want it, you put it on a Whimsicott that doesn't really have a great attack move alternative.
Yeah, and it was also really helpful too for me. I would use Whimsicott and Nihilego in concert a lot, and having that Gleam to go before Nihilego and break the sash of thing to get that big Meteor Beam KO was really, really useful.
Mm-hmm.
Like Clefairy having no attacking move and having Sing, I like Sing a lot because this team, you put out so much offense that you just get a lot of free turns to click Sing on Clefairy. Like they think you're going to protect, or whether or not you need to protect. Maybe they're just ignoring that slot. You can Sing. I think every game I click Sing that I hit Sing, I ended up winning. Like there was one game I clicked Sing and I didn't hit Sing, and I ended up losing that set. But other than that, Sing, like it makes you do something when you're otherwise doing nothing.
It's also really great in open team sheet formats like this one because now they know you have Sing and your opponent has to, it's kind of already in their mind. Where previously, they might assume you might have After You or some other weird move on there.
Mm-hmm.
And also like it's that kind of works in our favor too, because if they see the Sing, a lot of the time they're like, okay, now I have to bring the Finny. But Finny and Sun really does nothing. Like there was a number of games where people would bring Finny and max the Finny to try and mess up the Sun. But I could just keep switching out Torkoal and Clefairy with like Charizard maxed in the other slot and just not die. And then they've wasted their max effectively while I get Wildfire up and kill things.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of Finny coming for that reason, I think.
That's really interesting. I don't even know if it's the Clefairy, because when I look at this team and I'm thinking about how I would approach it, I definitely think that Finny would be a big part of my game plan, just because it does feel like it resists so many of the attacks that are coming out from your Pokemon. And in theory, if you do get turn off Sun in some way, you pressure a lot of the Pokemon. But if you guys manage to keep the pressure on Finny and keep the Sun up, especially, Finny isn't doing anything. Like it's not a very strong.
It's useless.
Yeah,
and
useless.
Yeah, if this Muddy Waters, which is a spread move, are going in, are in the Sun, it's just doing absolutely negligible damage.
Yeah, and Nihilego takes its special events is just so ridiculous too. It takes. I know when you're maxed in Sand, I think you take I was taking 15% from Finny Muddy Waters, and it was just you just completely ignore Finny.
Yeah, you don't even you sit there and threaten it, and it sits there and protects, and then you just target the other slot and laugh.
And so you guys are running a Swords Dance Landorus, and I think that's a really cool set. We haven't really seen as much Swords Dance on Landorus. I think that before, when we were looking at when we were talking about what this format was going to look like without knowing the Pokemon, I think everyone is looking at Landorus as, oh man, it gets max Airstream and max Ground and Swords Dance. It's going to be crazy good. And then over the last couple of weeks, I really hadn't seen very much of it at all. What made you guys run the Swords Dance set instead of a different set, and how did you guys feel about
it? We hated Intimidate.
Yeah. I wanted, part of the reason why, I really wanted to have a physical attacker on the team. And Landorus helps with Regieleki. Just kind of scares it out, scares away Coco, which, it gives us an extra way to deal with Coco. Intimidate was nice. Our team was still, even with Intimidate, pretty frail, that I didn't really think of it as an Intimidate mon by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the threat of the max Swords Dance, Swords Dance max, really came in handy a few times. I think I only did it twice, but I won both games I brought it to and just led Landorus, Clefairy, and Swords Danced immediately.
Yeah. Having Clefairy to redirect stuff away when you get the Swords Dance in, they can switch an Intimidator, but you're still a +1. And then I think, what are the Intimidators? The other Landorus and Incineroar, and you can kill both of those with a max move if you're at +1.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a strong set. Probably a little underutilized, and especially with Charizard, I think it has a really strong pin with either Charizard clicking flying moves and Landers clicking Earthquake, or Charizard clicking fire moves and Landers clicking Max Ground. You've got a really strong spread move and a really strong single target move either way. Uh, that's a really strong synergy there.
Yeah, a little bit of inspiration from Bad Intense article on Nugget Bridge a long time ago. Perfect pins. You could throw Wildfire into one slot in Earthquake, and there's not a lot they can do about it.
Yeah, not a lot of not very many things handle that at all.
Your EV spreads are like pretty straightforward. As you well, like they're like 52-52, so very simple, very straightforward in terms of you just want to do damage and try to live attacks on stuff with stuff like Torkoal. Do you remember what your Clefairy did exactly?
I think I asked you for help with a spread, and you gave me a Clefairy spread.
Yeah, I gave Don a Clefairy spread that I stole from, like, I think I stole it from Sohaib, and Sohaib probably stole it from you, Adi, in the first place.
Well, so when I was asked for a Clefairy spread, I had been so this was like week 1 of the format, and everyone is still running like Specs Reggie Eliki, and that really messes up Clefairy if they run Electro Ball because it just is base
Just
1
KOs.
Yeah.
And so the spread that I was using, the testing and the spread that I was giving out, had 68 speed EVs, so that it would take a lower base power from Electro Ball, and then it could live the attack. And so this is definitely not the spread that I was testing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, a lot of people like to get crazy on their EV spreads, and some of the time I definitely do. Like, there's teams in the past that I've made where I go hard on the EV spread, and I want to do specifically this thing. I survive this attack, and I do this much damage back, and there's nothing they could do. But this also kind of illustrates the other side of that sword, where sometimes you really don't need complicated EV spreads. Like, Paul Chua is a good friend, and Paul's winning more regionals than anybody else, and he'll tell you himself he a lot of the time just uses 252 Pokemon. It sure it matters like whose stick is more like technologically awesome, but like you still got to swing the stick at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it was a lot of the Pokemon on this team were doing pretty straightforward jobs. With Solar Power and Life Orb, especially in the sun, it's not like Charizard is he's here for a good time, not for a long time. So there really wasn't any point. I mean, some people like the bulky Charizard, but that didn't really fit with Life Orb
matter
Power at all. Landorus, I really wanted to speed tie every other Landorus if it became a max airstream war, which never happened for me. And Neolego's got that weird and wonderful speed tier where it didn't really want to drop it at all. And I didn't really think about bulk stuff. I just assumed it would. I mean, pretty much any special hit it'll handle, and then any physical hit that's strong, neutral, or super effective will just KO it. I didn't really see a point going beyond that.
Yeah, speed is kind of the most important stat anyway. Like, the order of moves is way more influential than like what you can actually survive. A lot of the times, like, there's stuff that can happen. Like, crits can happen. Like, different sets can happen. Like, you might calc for a Life Orb Finny, but it's a Specs Finny. And like at the end of the day, if that happens, like, you still need to move faster to KO it before it KOs you.
Yeah, definitely. It's EV spreads, especially like very specific EV spreads, matter either when you've like flowcharted a matchup out, or they matter on the margins. But I know someone like was running 244 speed Nihilego because Nihilego wasn't very common, and you can drop the speed a little bit without speed tying base 100 Pokemon. But at that point, if it faces another Nihilego, like you said, speed's the most important stat, and you really want to win that speed tie. If it's not a speed tie, then you actually are in a very advantageous spot. So that would, yeah, I totally agree. I think that when you're running max, you can just run max and play better than your opponent, and you're going to win more games that way.
Yeah, and this is a really early meta too. Like, most of the time, really early meta, you don't know what you're going to be getting hit by anyway. Like, I played 9 rounds maybe, and I don't think one of the teams was the same thing.
I wish I had that issue.
Yeah. So speaking of that, so can you talk to me about what some of the common game plans were for this team, especially against some of the matchups that you might have expected to face?
You want to go first, Tommy?
Sure. Well,
We had very different game plans with the same team.
The game plans were kind of similar. We just
game plan was kinda
we threw them around differently is more what it was, I think. A lot of the times you're in almost every game I brought like Whimsicott and Clefairy with 2 sweepers, and that was just what I brought. Not in that order, of course. Like you bring like Whimsicott Neolego, and then you clean up with like Charizard and Clefairy in the back, and Whimsicott kind of dies fast. And if it doesn't, you just sit there and keep setting up Tailwind, and then when it gets KO'd, you bring in Clefairy, and then that's you clicking Follow Me and or Sing until your one sweeper kills everything, or it gets KO'd, and then you bring in the next one. Really straightforward game plans for this team for the most part. Trick Room being the exception, and that's probably the one that we both played really different. My approach to the Trick Room matchup was to bring in to lead with Clefairy and something else, get big damage off really fast, and then just kind of stall out the turns by like switching Clefairy in, switching Clefairy out, follow meing, and then also having Torkoal there to kind of like when you get to, if something gets KO'd, you bring in Torkoal, and then Torkoal moves first and revenge kills.
Yeah, my Trick Room matchup. I had one match. I think it might have been my round 1. I did go the Clefairy Neil. I went like Clefairy Neolego. Just I knew they were going to go very passive because they had a Cresselia and something also passive, and just went for the Helping Hand Meteor Beam, and then just just get big damage, and then just sort of juggle it around until I can get Torkoal in, and then sort of put pressure on the Ice Horse or whatever their favorite sweeper is.
Yeah, and Don, I know that you actually recorded a lot of your matches. You didn't want to stream them while you were playing, but I know we can watch a lot of your matches on your brand new YouTube channel called Ice House, so you should definitely check that out. And I think all of us who have capture cards are going to be pretty regularly uploading best of threes whenever we play them in tournaments and stuff, so that you guys can see all sorts of quality matches, very high quality games. Yeah, it doesn't have commentary, but like, do your games have commentary? Were you talking over them?
No, but I'm hoping to maybe, since I've got this shiny new capture card, I'm hoping to maybe kind of go back through and maybe do a little Twitch session or something like that, and do commentary on them and maybe re-upload them with the commentary.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. There's a lot of high quality gameplay, and if you're interested in watching how this team actually operates on a game by game basis against a lot of different matchups, you can see all of Don's games, other than his games through top 16 onwards, which you can see the first day of the Players Cup games, at least on this channel right now. So make sure to go check that out. And then going back to the team, what would you say some of the stronger matchups for this team were? And you mentioned Trick Room specifically, but are there any other things that you really struggled with?
Yeah. So for pretty standard Metagross teams, I felt really confident in the matchup against them. Charizard, Metagross really can't, even with a Max Quake boost, Sun boosted, Wildfire takes it out easily. If they try to go other Finny is again in the Sun, doesn't really beat Charizard and loses to Nihilego. Their Tornadus just gets one shot by Nihilego, so you're able to get some early boost with Neolego. There is normally what I would do, and then have Charizard for the late game to kind of mop up. I felt really confident with my Metagross matchup, which I felt like going into it was going to be a really big archetype to see.
Yeah, the other pain in the butt matchup was Dragapult specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, Dragapult, we really don't have a way to hit it, and we can be faster and hit it for good neutral damage, but we kind of end up losing something in the process. Like, you can 1-for-1 trade, but the 1-for-1 trade is going to be probably one of your sweepers where the Dragapult is still Dragapult. And then they have another 3 mons when you have one thing that does damage left. With this team, you kind of end up being deficient in the damage department, or not in the damage, in the support department if you only bring one support, because you can't really be faster and not take damage at the same time. You kind of have to cycle the two of them and juggle them around to get the good mix of damage and not damage.
Yeah, my last round last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I guess now, was against the Dragapult team in losers round 8, and it was I was able to pull it off, and it was a very near run thing. Game 1, I lost pretty hard to Dragapult. Game 2, I was able to sort of get Wildfire off early and then sort of just juggle around enough till it was hurt late game and I could get a Tailwind off and Nihilego my way to victory. And then Game 3 was one of the only times I actually just led Landorus Clef and went for the Swords Dance. And that, I think they were not expecting that from what they led, and it definitely paid off.
Yeah, for sure. And Dragapult has generally been one of the hardest things for Sun to answer. That was true back even like in Series 5, Series 4. And so it's I think actually Sun benefited a lot from the lack of Dragapult and a lot of like Thunderous instead of Dragapult, for example. Or just generally it hasn't felt as strong this format. It's maybe been power crept a little bit. And so Sun suddenly has seen a lot of the counterplay go away. But it's been very highly represented in top 16. I think there were 4, maybe 5 Sun teams in top 16 of North America. So it had a really strong showing.
Yeah, Sun kind of really disappeared before Players Cup, and then all of a sudden, like, Players Cup comes through and top 16 gets put out. Like, hey, look, here are all the teams, and all of a sudden, Sun's everywhere again.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sun on the ladder. There's a lot of Nihilego on the ladder.
Yeah, and so if you want to try out both of those things, of course, there is a paste on screen, which is slightly incorrect, but we're also going to have a corrected paste in the description down below. And we also have a rental code of the team, which you can check out and try it out yourself. So make sure to check that out. It's really, really strong team, very fun to play. You know that if Don built the team, it's going to be a fun team to play.
Either fun or really frustrating to play.
One of the two.
Yeah, so make sure to check that out. Do you guys, so can you tell me about one very memorable match that you guys had in your run through the Players' Cup?
Absolutely. You want to go first, Don?
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right. So I think probably one of the most memorable matches I had was like cinching the top 16 match against Dewabblefet. He said he recorded the video, so it'll probably be posted on his channel sometime in the near future. And I like this match a lot because, well, for starters, I actually really enjoy the open team sheets format. I think it makes Pokemon feel really, really easy. And that's definitely something that benefits, like open team sheets is definitely something that benefits the offense player way more than it benefits like a balance or a defensive player. Because once I kind of know all your tech moves, I know exactly what piece I need in my chess set here to take care of each of your pieces. And that just kind of simplifies the game to leading correctly, getting the turn 1 right, and then just like rolling over anything in the way. It kind of, in my opinion, it moves the game from being like, I need to have these tricks to this is exactly what I have, now do something about it. And a lot of times you can start the game, even on team preview, you can just kind of make it so your opponent can't do something about it, or just find a way to kind of make their thing that they're doing about whatever you're doing irrelevant to you. So having said that, one of the reasons I liked the game against Leonard very much was I felt like I think it was loss win-win. I lost the first game, I won the last 2. And I felt like I just had a really, really clean mastery of getting the leads right. Like both the first 2 games, he didn't bring Metagross, and like I finished game 2 and I went into game 3, and I'm like, this kid hasn't brought Metagross. I'm just gonna lead Sun into his team that almost entirely counters Sun, sans Metagross, and I got the lead right. I just called him out on it, and that game went really fast in game 3.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good game, and I can't wait to watch it when it goes up on Leonard's channel if it hasn't gone up already. And I think that you're totally right. I think that the open team sheet format especially benefits players who are able to formulate good game plans rather than relying on surprising techs. And so that just really speaks to how well you were able to game plan throughout this tournament that both of you guys managed to get so far.
Indeed,
yeah, sort of touching on that as well, kind of like what Tommy just said. One thing I liked about this team a lot, so you don't really, open team sheet doesn't really give anything up for us. All the move sets for the most part, are pretty
Right
just
there.
obvious. Like there's no like, oh, no way, he's got whatever. It's all pretty just straightforward to the point where I don't think it's really costing us anything for everyone to know that our Nihilego is Meteor Beam. But knowing that they, might not have like Shugon Heatran is pretty huge.
Yeah, definitely. So, Don, what was your most memorable match of the tournament?
I had a few I really enjoyed, but my round 4 against and I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong, Oshi Cristo. It was a loss win for me as well. And it just came. I feel like it really showcased how great Nihilego was against teams that were primarily special attackers. My game 1, I think I got a little sloppy. Started off in a bad spot. I think I over prepared for the Ice Horse Dusclops mode, and he didn't bring that at all, and that really gave me trouble game 1, if I remember right. Then moving forward, I felt like they kind of might not do that, so I brought just the Nihilego Clefairy mode, and Nihilego was taking 50%. Max Nihilego was taking 50% from +2 Rotom Max Geysers in the sand, and just sort of eating shots and just really starting to pop off. And then I think it was game 3. It really showcased how great Nihilego could be in this format. It got up to maybe +5 special attack, which was just kind of ridiculous. But it just really sort of just I'm trying to think the best way to verbalize it, but just how great of a mon I felt like it was for this tournament. It really validated my choice to bring it.
Yeah, it really was. It was just probably the better call for this tournament. And like even just like looking at this team in team preview, how are they going to deal with Nihilego? It's like probably Rillaboom, but then if they bring Rillaboom into Sun, that feels really bad for them too. And so you managed to pair it with some Pokemon that it works really well with. That paid off.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was they switched their Heatran into a Meteor Beam game 2, and took about 80%. And then I thought they might protect, so I Helping Hand Max rocked it, and they brought in Dusclops, which was just immediately KO'd. And I was just,
That's awesome. Yeah, it snowballs so quickly too, because then you're like what +3 special attack, and you're like, what?
Oh yeah, and then I forgot it also lived a Heatran Earth Power unmaxed in sand at like 60%, and still was able to pull through that, which I did not think I was going to live.
All right, and so let's see. I think one more meme that you always sent to show on screen.
Oh yeah, yeah. I found that when I bring Torkoal, it sort of works out for me when I build teams. So I think I've just sort of accepted that at this point.
Don goes back to Torkoal all the time.
Yeah, but like I saw, so I had a video on how to team build successfully early format, and one of the things that Cedric Bernier really touched on was that using a team that you've used in the past, even if it's in the past generation, you're probably more comfortable with that team. And if you're comfortable with the team and people have only had 2 weeks to play with their team, an increased comfort level is going to win you a lot of games. And so, Don, having experience with Torkoal and Nihilego in the past and that pairing, I think definitely helped you position those Pokemon a little better, and did really well with it. So
it definitely speaks volumes about like just your ability to understand an archetype too. Like you bring it to a whole nother format and still do well with it.
Yeah, it's definitely new toys from the old version of the team I ran back in 17, but the way it all fits together just feels really similar. I felt like it definitely helped me just sort of settle into it a lot.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming on. You can follow these guys on Twitter at Doc Dandy and Dr. Czech BGC. Is that right?
Yeah, not a doctor though. It's the middle initial, but I've just accepted it.
And so, so
we're both doctors.
We're
both doctors.
Do you guys have any final words or shout-outs you want to give?
I would like to say good games to all my opponents, and I would like to shout both of you out, as well as the rest of Icehouse. You can't do excellent without some friends in your corner.
Absolutely. I'd like to second the GGs and the shout outs, and also shout out to my buddy Eric Schrader, who is like, he builds like the worst best teams. A lot for many years I would ask Eric for help with the team, and he would give me a team that I would tell him was garbage, and then I would immediately bring it to an event and cut. So shout out to Eric.
Yeah, we all need that person. I know SoHive has been that person for me plenty of times. So
That
yeah.
person actually for me is you, Don. Just a heads up.
I figured.
You love to see it. All right. So, well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and congratulations for your runs in Players Cup. Really impressive. And Tommy, especially with your 2 straight runs to top 16 in a row. Very impressive, and looking forward to you getting all the way to the international top 16 in Players Cup 3.
Yeah, let's see whose team I steal next Players Cup.
Yeah.
All right. And until next time, I will catch you all later. See you guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.